So for the first time in my life, I went to Yosemite National Park. Family trip, took my kids. If you're new to my channel, I am a photographer. I mostly shoot black and white film, and that was fitting for this trip. Headed to the land of Ansel Adams. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the trip through the photos, but I'm also going to give myself time to enjoy these. All right, my wife and I started the trip exhausted. We both work full time. We have 2 cats, 2 kids, a puppy dog. So we started the trip by getting a hotel relatively early in the day and just getting some rest. I like this photo because it reminds me of how the trip started. I also like that really cool lamp in the corner. I like the grain in the wall. Right. I like this headboard. Yeah. So I was going to take a picture of these stacked chairs. And my wife was sort of making fun of me for it. And then I can't remember if I encouraged my kids to make a shadow or if they just did it. But I shot a few, and this was my favorite. They enjoyed the pool more, but I didn't take my camera to the pool, so don't have any photos of that. Now, I picked this sort of, non-name brand hotel, and they had this Hummer out front where the kids could just get in it, which they had never really seen one. And it was fun for them to sit in the driver's seat. And then the owner actually came out and started it for them. We went into Oakland. I found a coffee shop. This is their mural on the side of the building. The boys don't drink coffee yet. They're drinking steamers. I guess that's a thing. All right, we're almost to the park, but we stop because we have caught up to all of our other family. Well, not all our family, but some of our other family headed to, I'm probably going to say Yellowstone 10 times, but it's Yosemite, right? Seems like everybody switches out Yellowstone and Yosemite, but yes, I asked everybody to show me what they were eating, and I love that my son George is eating my bicycle. So, oh wait, that's Barbara's bicycle, my wife. Okay, the moment, right? Somehow when you're making the long drive, I think it was 13 hours total. This is the moment you're sort of waiting for, is to get to the Rangers check-in. It's now you're really there. George is breathing in the fresh air. And I love that for him. It's also very symbolic for me. I remember a lot of my road trips as a kid, with my mom especially, right? She loved getting to some natural area and opening up the windows and smelling the fresh air. And I really like the photo. I like the grain a lot. Right, I'm not trying to say I like my own photos as much as I just really like black and white film photography. So it's hard for me not to just sort of get caught up in what I like about it. This is the first viewpoint when you get into the valley, so to speak. Right, you can see Half Dome way out there, and you can see El Capitan to the left of it. Right, lots of people pull out here, and I like, this is my son Ellery. Right, I'm getting his finger there on his camera, taking a picture of it. And there's several little things here, that shapes that complement each other. This shape, the finger shape, the hair shape, even some others. There's lots of like a repeating shape in this. That's my wife stretching. And look at her smiling. So I had to take I stepped back and said, let me take another photo here. I like that one of her. Now, I don't know this person, right? That's part of, like, I don't know, being a photographer is, I also just take pictures of other people. I always have to explain that to people I'm with. They're like, oh, did you just take a picture of someone you don't know? But I mean, look at them, right? I mean, they, it's the faces of Half Dome, right? And then you just get in here and like they're both smiling. How do I not take that picture? Okay, this is the first time I've seen El Capitan, and it's like blowing my mind. So yeah, I stuck my head out the window and took a picture of it. And look how big that is. It's like 3,000 feet. More than half a mile tall. I'm shooting it out the sunroof. Another one I love where, right, look how happy my son is. This was a really good trip for my kids and my family. Now the occasion, this is my mother-in-law, Joan. We're celebrating her 80th birthday, even though that was, I don't know, a year or two ago. You have to schedule these things so far in advance, but we're celebrating her 80th. It was her idea, and she's the one who made it happen, and she reserved the rooms at the Yosemite Lodge, right next to the swimming pool. Oh, let's see. I want to show you this one, but I want to show you this one first. So here she is. She's ready to go on a walk. She's waiting on everybody else. She's ready to go. And then we do go on a walk as a family. You'll get to know kind of everybody here, but it's the cousins and my wife's siblings. Joan's smelling this tree. These trees that smell sort of like butterscotch. So yeah, as a family, we're doing a little hike. We're going up to the falls, which this late in the summer, there wasn't really any water in the falls, but we still wanted to do the little hike. And I included 2 of these photos because I just couldn't pick one, right? I liked this one, and I liked this one. And sometimes rather than spending 2 hours deciding which one I like better, I just kept them both. Now, these are the 4 cousins. So Anya on the left, Zephyr, and then George and Ellery, my 2 boys. They also have a cousin Maggie who's not quite ready to keep up. And that's George. We found sort of an area. I mean, it wasn't a jungle gym, but to them it was. Right, you could walk all the way up this log. You know, at this point, it's only the kids up there, so who knows what's up there? But see Anya. Anya's the climber of the group. I mean, they're all climbers, but she's the one who's going to find the top first. This is FOMA 100, if you're wondering. Right, you get that nice halation over here. Gives things a glow. And this is George coming down, and I'm actually close enough to catch him just in case he falls. My son Ellery. This photo reminds me of some Arnold Newman shots. And I like it a lot. I like how he's framed so perfectly. All right. My memory on this is that he was just walking by and I was just ready for it, and I called his name as he was walking by, and he looked at me. So this is all my family too. Now we've made it to the Yosemite Falls, but there's like 99.9% of the water is not there. It's a trickle that you basically need binoculars to see. And this is them pretending to see it. Right? So I told him, I said, look up and pretend to see the falls. Yeah, and here's Ellery looking up using his binoculars to see the falls. Now, I like this photo a lot. I like his shadow on the rocks. I like the halation glow. I like all the tones, the rocks, just... And that he's looking up, sort of his... the interesting angles of his body. And these are all the cousins with my mother-in-law. Now, I was trying to carry 3 cameras. I took an M3, an M4, and an M6. And I thought this was a good idea, and I was going to shoot 3 different films and have 3 different lenses and different filters, and I thought this was Tri-X at 800, and it ended up being FOMA Pan at 100. And I had to save it by pushing the heck out of it in the developer, but you can see the dead shadows. And you can also tell that the highlights sort of went for a ride up. I still really like it. Wouldn't mind if my shadows had a little more. Weren't quite so just dark. Now, took my kids to the Ansel Adams gallery. Overall, it was sort of a disappointment. They only had 6 actual Ansel Adams prints. The rest were reproductions. And the ones that they did have of his were framed behind just ordinary glass that was highly reflective and glare. So this is it, right? This is an $80,000 Ansel Adams print, and you can just see the reflection on the glass. It's like, come on, like someone's gonna spend $80,000 on this, like, and it's the Ansel Adams gallery, and you're only gonna have 6 actual prints. Like, use some museum grade glass. Come on. Don't make me just look at a reflection. Now, this was part of a museum exhibit where there's somebody teaching how to make cordage, which my son Ellery was interested in. He knows how to do it. And I didn't really want to take a picture of the person, so I just took a picture of their, right, the floor at their feet. I think I made a nice photo. Now, we took our bikes on this trip, all 4 of us. That was a really good idea. However, my son Ellery had a little bit of a bike accident, and well, as we'll see here in a second, he needed stitches in his knee. Oh yeah, so of course I'm interested in the post office. I love mail. But this was the free stuff table, right? Let's check it out. There are some blue jeans, some like athletic shorts, and I think it's a rug that's like been half eaten by a bear. But, you know, when you're in Yosemite, make sure you check out the free stuff table. Yeah, this picture is out of sequence. So this is them at the Ansel Adams gallery. Okay, so Ellery, you can see one of his knees is already bandaged up. We haven't been to the medic yet. The medic wasn't going to open till 1, so I took him to get some ice cream, and I found the most interesting mailbox in the valley. So that's what we have here. Yeah, so it's our first full day there, and I've taken Ellery to the medic. And here he is after the procedure. Wait, no, here he is after the procedure. They were really sweet. They gave him this bear to hold while they gave him stitches. And then he was up for riding his bike afterwards back to the lodge. But he spotted this and stopped. You know, he has his camera. So I got one of him taking a picture. And we grabbed the other cousins and we went for a longer bike ride. And I like the lighting on this one, right? The sort of the bright background, and then sort of the interesting creek shadow detail, and the little interaction between Anya and Barbara. And the cousins ran to this log. And somehow this photo makes me just appreciate how young my boys are. I don't know why, but I think as the years go by, I'll really, I'll see this photo and be like, wow, my kids they were little. They were young. We're just doing a little sightseeing as we bike around the valley. And there's Anya again. She climbed up this. And that really cool tree. Yeah. And she was proud of herself. That was not an easy climb. I sort of discouraged the other kids from trying, but George jumping down. Action. Yeah, this was a great bike ride. I don't know if it was like maybe 7 miles or so. 8 miles, a loop. And just every like 10, 15 minutes we'd stop. We'd find a rock to climb up. George went up there first, and the other kids wanted to join him. And I wanted a group photo for this one, which I think I like this one best. I also had one where I said, look up, which is kind of cool, but I think I like the one where you can really see the faces. All right, again, still on the bike ride, right? We're up to, I think, what's called Mirror Lake, maybe? And George found this cool path. I'll show you here. Right, so he went up to here. And I loved how this tree was coming up around the rock. And I let the sun pop in. It's a little risky, right? Flare could ruin it, but it looks pretty good. And then the other cousins caught up to him. And I wanted a horizontal and I wanted a vertical. I think the horizontal is nice because you feel closer to them just viewing on a computer monitor. But I think I like the vertical here, right? I like seeing how the presence of the tree, I think, is a strong addition. And I like this one a lot where they all went there pretty willingly. I didn't really have to, this wasn't at all contrived. There's one later I'll show you I don't love it for that reason that I sort of forced it. But here they are, right? They got on top of this big rock. I sort of underestimated. This is a 400 TX Tri-X. And, right, if this was like, an M11, you'd be able to crop in and still sort of really see them. But Tri-X can't quite do that. Such a cool rock, right? And this one, they're just chilling, right? There's no look here, photos. Just they're just hanging out on the rock. And we finally made it up to the water, which there wasn't a lot of water left this late in the season. Oh, back on this rock. My manual sorting order has been disrupted. Yep, now we're back in the pond. I love them cooling off there. I I mean, I do like this photo. I would like it a little more if this was like a little more features in the background. Photo time. And now we're headed back, and George climbed back up on the rock. He's celebrating. First one there. Okay, now we're driving up to Glacier Point, and so this is another, I think it's called the tunnel view or something. Another famous viewpoint where lots of photos have been taken. Right, the waterfall's not there. And right, for me, this is just a family photo time. Right, it's maybe worth saying a little bit of like, right, I'm in the land of Ansel Adams. 1 million photographers have been through here. Even on this trip, I saw probably 1,000 very nice cameras, right? This is an incredibly photographed place. There's lots of guidebooks, online resources, all about how to photograph Yosemite. You know, I mostly just did my thing and made it about photographing my family, right? That it's like, yeah, it's of Yosemite, but these are family photographs, right? This edge was crazy, right? The look, when you look off, like, I don't know if you're 2,000 feet above the valley, but it is insane. Now, technically, there's not a lot about this photo that's great. But this was such a sweet moment. I love my son George for this. He doesn't love being in front of the camera a ton, but he loved the idea of this picture, and he was excited to be in it, and right. So I'll just cherish the moment, cherish the photo. I don't know these people, right? This is another one of those, like, just an interesting photo. I gotta take it. So, right, and I sort of happened into some, like, an interesting shadow here and an interesting shadow here, and yeah, this was a photographer. She was the photographer, but he was taking pictures of her because she wanted pictures of herself. And then another photographer comes along and offers to take a picture of them, and he's carrying a Leica with a 50mm Summicron version 5, and he exchanges his contact information, and they talk about how they're both photographers, and yeah, I stayed out of it, but I did take their picture. And there's like, I don't know how many brides and grooms were up there. But it was a very beautiful day. Now, this is my brother-in-law, and I don't know who this other guy is, but the combination of the interesting tones and shadow and this posture and Half Dome back there just makes for it's interesting. So I like it. Now, I really like this one. It has sort of like, right, 3 different areas to examine. Right, there's the bride and the groom being photographed by Half Dome. There's the mom and her little girl, who are my family members, having a sweet little moment with their long shadows. And then there's this other person who's got their like phone finger up, and I don't know if she's maybe taking a picture. She might be taking a picture of the bride. Who knows, right? But she's doing her world is existing. So I like that sort of like the three different pockets of life happening. And I took another one, right, without the woman on the side, and I got the kiss. And look, it looks like I got some people down here, like maybe doing a selfie over the edge down there. I'm just now seeing that. See, that's why I like actually looking at my photos and enjoying them instead of over scripting, because I'm seeing things that, like, really right now for the first time. Now, I like this one too, and I apologize that she's not in sharp focus, but that was actually intentional, and I sort of like it that way, right? I actually focused at infinity and let her be a little bit out of focus. I think sometimes being out of focus is underrated, and yeah. Oh. Yeah. So would I prefer if she was in focus? Maybe I would. But I also don't mind, especially in these days where like being in focus is just a dime a dozen. Now, I love the moment. This is mother-daughter, my wife's sister and her daughter. And I also think it's a pretty good photo, right? I like the foreground, right? And I like the left-right balance. The plant, right? And it's just hard to have, right? You know how many thousands of people go to this place every day and take almost the same pictures? Yeah, and this one's like, it's mine. I like this one, I kind of like the texture in the foreground mountainside and like that extra sharp detail. So it's actually a little bit of a hazy day, so I'm shooting with an orange filter on these. And I also didn't want it was a kind of a light blue sky day, and I didn't want my sky to be super, super white, right? So again, the orange filter is helping just make it a little bit of a shade of gray. And again, Ellery's not super in focus because I'm letting Half Dome be what I focused on. But he saw this and he was like, I look a little blurry. Yeah, fair. Still a good picture, though. Yeah, and I took way too many of this shot. The shadow kept changing, the light was changing, and I think I took half a roll. And, I don't know, this was maybe my favorite because right where the shadow line starts to get to Half Dome. But, this is 35 millimeter film. I'm not trying to compete with large format photographers, but, I was there. Took me some photos of Half Dome. I sort of like this. This was actually a vertical photo, but I cropped it square. And I like it. Sort of the compositional balance feels right to me. Sort of got that album cover feel to it. Let's see. And then, my son George was walking in front of me, and I included him in the photo. And I like how that one turned out. I had to do a little dodge and burn, right? Because he was in the deep shadow compared to Half Dome. Now, I really like this photo of my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law. I did have a filter on my camera, though, because I was shooting Half Dome, and it has sort of tinted their skin to almost look like this is an old orthochromatic film. Which I like, but I'm not sure that they'll like how it almost looks like they have like a darker skin, like an olive skin or something. But it's a nice shot. And then, as we're leaving, right, the kids start climbing on this rock, and I start seeing some good activity back in here. I like that this person's got their arms spread for a photo. And then Maggie, the youngest of the group, pops up on the rock. And I get this treasure of a photo. It's just one of those moments where it's like I take it and I just have to say thank you to the person. And it's like, thank you. Thank you for this wonderful picture. I love how her little toe is picked up right there. And then my son climbs up to the top of this. And he got up there, I think, to be in the photo, but he was also taking some pictures. Right, my kids are just hitting that age where they're also getting into photography. Now this is Ellery again. So we're hiking to El Capitan, and I actually got down on the ground for this because it was hard to get. It's so tall, even with my 28mm lens, or this might even been 25. It was a 25mm lens. I was struggling to get the top of that thing in the picture, so I had to get down on the ground. But I like that it makes him look extra tall with his long legs. You get this cool shadow, nice framing. So that's a favorite of mine. And then I wanted to go hike to where this thing just like sticks out of the earth, where the climbers start their routes. Right, you can see my family right here starting the climb. So, right, I went to it, and, it's like, this is what it feels like to say, okay, I'm going to climb a 3,000-foot rock wall. And so my kids decided they'd give it a try. There's Ellery headed up. And George headed up. And then I love this perspective, so I took a few, trying to get a little bit creative. I think I like that one a little better. Yeah. And then Ellery actually found, I don't know if we call this a climbing route, but he started to climb up. And he was getting high enough where I had to tell him to come back down. Yeah, so we found a swimming hole. This is, I think this is George and Zephyr. Yep, George and Zephyr. I like it. I got them there in the sun. And El Capitan just like in the sunlight. And then George and I had sort of come off to the side and we're doing a little swimming. And then, but there were people doing the diving rock. So this is his cousin Ashley. I think she was hoping that I was taking a picture and that it's going to be some telephoto lens that's really shows her, but sorry, Ashley, but hey, the timing is good. right? And your dive is good. But yeah, you're pretty far away. But I had to get, right, the rock in the picture too. So, yeah, here we're just at the swimming hole. George was digging his feet into little pebbles. I like to find, strong shadows like this. I used to sort of be afraid of shooting in the bright full sun, but now it's like, that's a good chance to find really well-defined shadows and make them part of photos. And this one sort of somehow it has a geometry that I really like, and sort of, some textures. Yeah. Right, basically the same moment. But I sort of liked how this bush behind him sort of looks like how his hair is going wild at this point in his life. And also kind of matches the pattern on his shorts. Right, he found this place where the water was like warm, right? Who knows what was growing in it, but felt good on the feet. And now I really like this picture. This is my brother-in-law, and I was just walking towards him without the intention to take a photo, and I just saw his shadow right there, and just immediately had to take this picture. But I think, being around him, he's a very artistic person. So even just whenever I'm around him, I'm sort of already kind of like primed to think like this. He's somebody who will be like, "Hey, do you see in the water these colors or these shapes?" And yeah, we're making a little bit of a dam. And I was sort of late to this scene, but right, I'm getting them all focused on working on the dam and playing in the water. And all right, now this is the one where I like this picture. I love them. It's cool, but I sort of forced it. I was like, "Hey, go in there." And at the end of it, they were like, "Uncle Daniel, that didn't feel safe," right? Because they felt like the rocks were going to squash them. And I felt bad about it. I mean, no one got hurt. But all right, we're doing a big hike. We're going up Vernal Falls. I mean, it's not that big, but it's big when you got kids and you're not as athletic as you used to be. But yeah, this is snack time. And George again gifted me a photo. Right? I don't remember asking for this. Like, I just had my camera, and this just, sometimes I don't remember. But he gave me this gaze. And I love it. That's, I'm on this hike, and I just wanted one camera, one lens. So this is the 28 Elmerit at 2.8. Yeah, George was he didn't want to go on this hike, and he was dragging behind. But then I offered to carry his backpack, and then all of a sudden he was like leader of the pack and just like flying up the hill, which you get almost to the falls, and then there's 700 mule steps to get to the top. I like that one. Don't think I need to say anything. And again, right, we're late in the season, so the waterfall is right now typically what you would see in pictures, right? It's just sort of a little bit. Although it's misleading. I'll show you here in a second so you get some idea of how big it actually is. But I really like this photo because that's my two boys and my wife. I think the light is nice. Yeah, so yeah, these are trees up here, right? That gives you some perspective. And I like all this rock, these nice tones. This one too, but then here, this is a good place to get some idea of how big it is. So these people down here, and again, this is just for 400 speed Tri-X. This is 3 people, right? So I'd like to go back earlier in the season when this thing is really flowing, right? They call this the mist trail. I think, you get really wet and misty because of all the... we even got some mist on this day, so I imagine when it's really flowing, there's tons of mist. And this, we're almost to the top, right? So it's like a goat trail almost going up to the top. And then when you get to the top, you actually sort of go higher than the waterfall, and then you have to kind of walk back down a little bit. But you get this big view. And Ellery's leading the way here for me. All right, but there's a good thing there's a railing here. And then, yeah, the railing goes all the way out to the edge of the waterfall. And I really like this one because look at all their hair, right? The wind is kind of blowing up and lifting their hair, and it's sun-kissed. And you sort of get the dark framing left and right. And they're all sort of looking off the edge. So another favorite. George right against the edge, watching the water go off. Anya doing the same. And then, right, we realize that we see some of our family. Our, Aunt Amanda, or my sister-in-law, she was carrying Maggie the baby. And so she didn't make it all the way to the top. But they made it to where they could see the waterfall, and so we were waving from the top. I like this one. And then we went a little further up the trail, the mist trail, to where there's a lake. And Barbara was talking about getting them in. And I told her I was not up for having wet kids. I saw somebody, you can see somebody swimming across here. And then they went across, and here they are laying, they're sunbathing. And now we're just headed back towards, right, we're going to go down the trail now. And this is one where, I've shown this to some people, and they're like, oh, that could be in a museum. I don't know if it's that good, but it is one that can sort of stand alone. Yeah. And this is that same tree, but I just took a picture of its shadow on the rock. And then my family, was walking across the scene, so I got one of them in it. And then I thought it'd be cool to put Ellery in the picture, right? Here's actually further back is my wife Barbara with the other 3 kids, and there's Ellery. I told him to stop and turn around. It's sort of cool, but he is sort of a little too small. Yeah, and that, just to see this giant, probably granite, right, rock. It almost looks like there's a beam of light coming down on him. I think this is my last waterfall photo, but I sort of liked the strong tree shadows that were hitting the rock facade. And then Ellery pointed this out to me, this little sign that says, "Give plants a chance." And the sign is not in good shape. And the plants aren't in very good shape either, but this is just a place where people go off the trail because they want to go down to the water. With all these little footprints. All right, we're headed down. And we're almost to the end of my photos. We found this like natural spring that was very cold, and it felt really good at this point to dip our whole heads in there. The kids went first, but then they talked Mama Bear, my wife Barbara, and she went all the way in. Okay, that's it. So thanks for watching.